Hello, this is Brandy.
Hey, this is your man Dave.
And welcome to our third episode of Relationships and Family Matters. We talked about dating. We talked about how we met on a blind date. And we talked about dating in our last couple of episodes. But I heard about this girl who met a guy online, and she went out on a date with this guy. And she ended up leaving the restaurant, because he wouldn't pay for $3 cheese.
$3 cheese?
$3 cheese. So they ordered food.
Cheese.
Well, they ordered some food. And, she ordered her food first, I would say. And then he ordered his food. And the waitress asked him, and it was a burger. The waitress asked him if he wanted cheese on his burger. So evidently he asked how much the cheese would be, and the waitress told him it would be $3 additional. So he decided he didn't want to get cheese.
That's pretty expensive. $3 for a slice of cheese?
Yes, but This is New York, and I would say it's probably New York City.
Okay.
And so the girl went ahead and ate her meal. Mm-hmm. She excused herself to the bathroom. She took her purse, and then she paid for the meal. She found the waitress, paid for the meal, both their meals, and she left the restaurant because she was upset that he wouldn't pay for $3 cheese. After she left the restaurant, she sent him a text message, and she said, I paid for the meal and you should have the cheese. So what are your thoughts, Dave? I'm just curious what a man... How do you think he felt?
Well, for one reason, he probably felt pretty bad. $3 for a slice of cheese is pretty expensive in my book, I would think.
What would you have done?
The girl or the boy?
If you were the man at the date and the cheese was $3.
I probably wouldn't have ordered the $3 cheese. I'm not necessarily a cheese guy, so I probably wouldn't have ordered the cheese. But $3 for a slice of cheese, I probably would have said, no, I'll do without the cheese. And just to eat the burger, because I like burgers. I think burgers are great. I love burgers.
Well, you're not a cheese guy, so what if it was something that you normally like? Maybe this guy likes cheese.
I don't think it was the cheese. It was the $3 that she got upset. Is she basically saying he's cheap?
I think she's saying he's cheap, yes.
Frugal or cheap?
Frugal, I don't know. I think she's just saying he's cheap because he wouldn't pay $3 for cheese.
I think he's more frugal than cheap.
Okay.
Because, cheap, some people just don't want to pay that extra money for an item that they don't necessarily deem to be necessary.
Do you think you would pay for $3 cheese
in
New York City, though?
No, I would not. No, absolutely not.
Because we're from Tennessee. We're thinking
that's
a lot of money in Tennessee.
I wouldn't pay $2 for cheese in Tennessee.
You wouldn't pay $2 for cheese. What do you think is a reasonable amount of money to pay for a slice of cheese on your burger?
A slice of cheese.
Yes.
They're making a profit even if it was $1. I'm assuming that they're making a profit off that one slice of cheese. They're making a profit if they charge the guy $1. But in this case, in New York City, of course, they want to make a bigger profit, so they charge $3 per cheese. For the slice of cheese. I just think that's pretty expensive. If the guy didn't really necessarily want it, that's fine. But I think it was very bad on her part to leave the table, pay for the food, and leave the guy sitting there and say you should have got the cheese and just left.
Yeah,
that's really bad on her part.
I think it was a little rough. I definitely would not have done anything like that.
So she could not have sat down and finished the dinner and just not communicate with that guy anymore.
Right. I guess she was just, she was put out. She didn't like it. She thought it's their first date. Maybe, most people on the first date try to impress the other person. So
he should have got 2 slices then.
Yeah.
2 slices.
Should have got $6 worth of cheese, and she would have stayed.
She would have stayed.
No, she would have stayed for $3 cheese.
I just think that's a little overboard. That was overkill.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. I think if she had been a little concerned that $3 was a factor to him, then maybe she should have asked. Maybe she should have inquired and said, "Hey, are you not getting the $3 cheese because it costs $3, or did you not really want the cheese? Are you have a lactose problem? You just really didn't want that cheese, and the fact that it was $3 just kind of clinched it."
She did not take the time to dig a little bit deeper in what was the issue behind. Was it the $3 or was the cheese?
If she was bold enough to get up from that table, pay for both their meals, leave him sitting there, then text him, she should have been bold enough to come out and just ask him why he didn't want the $3 cheese.
I totally agree, Brandy. I totally agree with that. I think that should have been a conversation that could have had at the dinner table.
Yeah.
After the meal, just say, "Hey, I'm just curious," and just say, "Hey," and I think communication is very important. You have to be open and honest. She should have said, "Hey, by the way, when we had dinner that night, that cheese, when you didn't order cheese, that kind of bothered me. Let's talk about that."
Or she could have said something right then.
Yeah, could have said something right then, right then and there, and kind of had a conversation there. And he could have like, "Hey, I'm a little cheap when it comes to my money." Sometimes you can be cheap for yourself, but you'll spend quite a bit on someone else.
Oh, that's a good point.
So I'm like that.
Because had she wanted the $3 cheese,
I guarantee he probably would have bought it for her.
He would have bought it for her.
See? That's the thing. She didn't take time enough to just pay attention to the little things. I think she just...
I think she
got turned
overreacted. She overreacted, and I think she probably threw away a perfectly good relationship, possibly.
I'm assuming because she agreed to the date, so I'm assuming that she liked the guy. I'm assuming
she probably liked him. She sat down, she ordered food. She probably liked what she saw. Mm-hmm. She knew a little bit about him, but then in the end, she walked away.
So she got turned off by a $3 cheese.
Yeah, that's a bit much, and I have a feeling she's probably not going to be dating much in the future if something that small.
Yeah, I mean that's really
turn
small.
her off.
I mean that wouldn't turn me off if some girl.
Well, I mean, as a girl, as a woman, I don't think it would have turned me off. If he had done something else later, and he just seemed really, really cheap, maybe it would have turned me off. But that initial reaction to the $3 cheese, it wouldn't have been a
Brandon, let me ask you a question since we're talking about cheap. A cheap guy.
Yeah.
Can you tell a cheap guy before you go out on a date with him?
Can I tell a cheap guy?
Can women tell a cheap guy before they go on a date with him?
Possibly, yes. You might be able to determine a guy is cheap depending on where he's taking you. Like what restaurant he's taking you to. That could be deemed as cheap. For example, I hate to give out restaurant names, I guess I won't say. But yeah, if it's a lower end chain restaurant, I probably would think he was cheap. If it wasn't especially first date. Most of the time, guys are trying to impress.
And I'm pretty sure they went on a nice restaurant.
It probably was a nice restaurant. So, yeah.
Charging $3 cheese, yes. Pretty sure it was nice.
It's kind of hard to answer your question. It would be hard for me to determine other than what restaurant we were going to if he was cheap.
So you will look at the restaurant. What about his taste in clothing?
Yeah. I guess that would be a factor. I don't really know a lot about men's clothing, but if he wasn't dressed fairly well, I would probably have an issue.
I've always been told that women look at guys' shoes.
Yes, I have heard that.
Shoes is a big indicator of how
I don't
a
really
man
look
dress.
at the shoes, but I've heard that.
Well, you don't want to date a guy his shoes all scuffed up. You're like, okay.
I hadn't thought about that.
So I think a lot of women look at a guy's shoes, look at the way he's dressed, and I'm not into name brands, but of course, if you have a couple of name brands, you're like, okay, it's a nice shirt, that's a nice tie, nice suit.
I wouldn't want it to be over the top. I don't want them to be flashy. I don't want a lot of name brands.
But if this guy was dressed I'm assuming that he was dressed pretty nicely at the restaurant.
Probably.
And she bent over backwards and got upset over a $3 cheese.
Yeah, it's
that's
petty.
And that's for him, not for her. Now, if he didn't pay for her, I could see that a little bit.
Yeah.
If the guy said, I'm not going to pay $3 for you to get cheese. He didn't say that was for himself.
Right.
So some guys are a little bit cheap on themselves, but will spend whatever on their significant others.
Like you.
Yeah, like me.
Okay.
Like you. That's right.
Well, speaking of spending and Dave, and since Dave is a financial advisor, I wanted to get your opinion on the banks that were failing. That's a little scary to me.
That is, it got the market all scattered for a couple of, maybe a week or so. Just wanted to touch a little bit on the banks. I know a lot of people heard that in the news, on the nightly news and the daily news about Silicon Valley and Signature Bank and First Republican Bank. These banks were basically in the tech. They're like tech banks. They're in California. Well, two banks are in California, Silicon Valley and First Republican are in California.
Right.
They're like I said, they're in the tech industry. They invest in a lot of cryptocurrency, a lot of Bitcoin. A lot of people want to invest in that, and that's a really volatile market. If you got in on the front end, you probably made a lot of money. But if you're trying to invest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency right now, I think you probably best in just investing your money in some traditional blue chip stocks that you just ride it out. But trying to get in and trying to make a killing on this tech stock is really not going to fare you well, especially on the long term. And a lot of these banks, because they failed, they had a lot of investments in their bond portfolio. What banks do, they gather your deposits, even your savings, your checking account. They would invest that money usually in short-term instruments, like maybe some treasury, some 6 months treasury, or maybe a 12 months treasury. But these guys were investing in the bond market, which was a little bit longer term. They would have a 3-year bond on a lot of their investments. So when people got scared about them closing, people started going into the bank and started withdrawing their money. And when you do that, people, you basically want your bank to fail, because you're
part of the problem.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
You're causing a problem by going in the bank and withdrawing your money.
Right.
You basically say, I want you to fail. I'm going to go ahead and take my money out. So I don't advise people to do that. Most banks are safe. I've said just about 99% of the banks are safe. Mm-hmm. A lot of times your deposits are FDIC insured. That means it's a federal insurance company that's secure your deposits up to $250,000.
I was about to ask what that amount was, yes.
Well, before the Great Recession, 2008, it was $100,000. Mm-hmm. They will insure your deposits up to $100,000. Now they increased to $250,000, but on this particular case, on Silicon Valley, they insure your deposits up to. They didn't have it was unlimited at the time, because it was a one-time bank failure. Signature Bank did fall, but they were in the same category as Silicon Valley. But First Republican got saved by other banks.
Okay.
Other banks deposit their money into First Republic Bank to shore up their deposits. So, it is kind of scary, but I think that was a one-off. I think that was an outlier. I think a lot of banks are not going to fall into that category, especially the regional banks, your large regional banks, even in your national banks. I think they're all fine.
Well, that's good to know, especially since you work for a bank. I'm happy to know that.
So, Brandy, I know you've been having your little girls' trip recently. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with your girl trip? How did it fare out?
Okay, well, before we did talk about having some me time, and
that's very important.
The husband or the boyfriend getting away sometimes, the wife or the girlfriend getting away.
Let me ask you a question. What is sometimes, and what is your?
I'm just saying getting away from time to time.
You think
My first ever girls trip.
You think maybe once every 3 months, something like that?
Oh, well.
How often do you think?
How often for me?
No, just say a relationship. Because I have my
a
definition.
Relationship. I would say once a year would be a good.
Once a year for a weekend?
A long weekend.
A long weekend?
I mean,
okay.
I think that's long enough. I was gone for 3 nights on a girls trip. We went to Vegas.
Woo!
And
what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas?
Yeah, it stays in Vegas, baby. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But no, it was a lot of fun. It was my first girls trip ever. There were 4 women, and we had a great time. We flew out on a Friday. We went to an Usher concert on Saturday night. And I mean, it's been years since I have stayed out all night.
All night.
All
wow.
night.
I guess I'm not going to go there, am I?
But in Vegas, staying out all night, I'm sure, is just a common practice. It's a city that never sleeps.
One of the cities. Yeah.
One of them, yeah. I think New York is the other.
Way.
But it was a lot of fun.
LA, maybe.
LA. It was a lot of fun, a lot of good food. Just a nice time. The weather was great.
Awesome.
It was in the 70s, and it was so nice. But anyway, not to keep talking about it, it was great. Enjoyed it. Vegas it's just a fun time. Got back home, and it was cold. And it's been cold ever since.
Yes, we got a little cold front coming in. The weather's been a little strange. I think all over the country it's been a little strange, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of missing Vegas right now. We enjoyed the hot tub. It was more of a hot pool, but it was a nice time. So yeah, had a good time. I probably sound a little nasally because I came back and got sick, but I'm fine.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yep, I feel a lot better and really enjoyed it. It was nice to come back home and see my hubby and my child, so I missed y'all. I hope y'all missed me, but
we did. We missed you a lot. It was hard to sleep.
Oh yeah,
sleep in a
it was hard
cold
for me
bed.
to sleep when I did sleep, but
yeah, it was. I'm glad you had fun.
Your time is coming.
Yeah, like I said, we talked about that in our last couple of episodes about having your me time. I think that's very important. I think in a relationship, you're as a couple, you do bond together as a couple, but I think it's also important to have your me time, your individual time. Sometimes it could be, just taking a weekend trip, or it can be, a couple of days or whatever. But
left
I think,
on a Friday, came
I just
back
think
on a
that's
Monday.
very important. I think that is very important to sustain a healthy, a great relationship, and communication is very important too.
We were already planning our next girls trip.
Oh, cool!
It's going to be more girls next time.
So, do you guys you want to share where you guys are planning on going, or you want to?
We're thinking about going to the beach, just driving down to the beach. Probably a much cheaper trip than going to Vegas and paying for a show. But yeah, it was a good trip. Did really enjoy Usher, but the beach is one of my favorite destinations. And
cool.
Looking forward to that. And it'll probably be more girls next time. So,
awesome.
Are you thinking about a guys trip?
No, that hasn't been on our radar yet. But I'm pretty sure I would love to kind of get away and kind of hang out a little bit.
Yeah, just for a long weekend.
Just for a long weekend.
That's long enough, honey.
Yeah, I think the last time we went to the hot ATL.
Yeah.
We kind of hung out a little bit. We did go to a little strip club and hang out a little bit.
Thanks for.
Well, guys, that's. I think that's a part of a ritual for a guy. Most guys go to a strip club. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I
bachelor
remember
party.
It was a bachelor.
It's your bachelor's party.
Yeah.
One of my buddies got married. We hung out at a strip club and. Hey, shake that thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Spare me.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, though.
But I just think that's good. I'm glad you guys had a great trip.
Yeah, we guys had us ladies had a great trip.
Oh, guys is a
I know.
What's it, gender neutral?
Yeah,
neutral.
I guess so.
Word.
Yep.
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, one other thing I wanted to talk about. Just staying with the relationships theme, is staying together. having a long-term relationship. So what do you think it takes to have a long-term relationship? Not necessarily just being married for a long time, but even dating long-term. What does it take?
Well, it takes a commitment. I think that's very important. We've talked about, me time. I think just a commitment aspect. Just going back to the young lady that left the guy sitting at the table because he didn't want to pay for $3 extra cheese on his burger. And she got so upset about that or just couldn't handle it and just left the guy sitting there. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how long they've been talking via text or on the phone or in person, but just to leave him sitting there after one date over a $3 cheese, that shows her lack of commitment. She could have said, okay, let me try that again, but just to walk away and just... I think you said, did she block him or didn't that was the
She blocked him after she texted him and let him know.
So after she texted him, she blocked him. So
she was done. She didn't like him very much, evidently. Well, maybe it wasn't the cheese.
Well, just going back, just to answer your question, I think just a commitment side of a relationship is very important. People are not committed anymore. Once they have an argument, I think some arguments can be healthy. It can really bring out something that's been going on in the past, something that you should have discussed maybe months ago. Because sometimes things happen, you'll keep them within yourself. Then it happens again, it'll be a big blow up because you didn't address it in the first time it happened. So I think sometimes having a relationship that you communicate, having a strong commitment toward each other is very important. Have trust, communication. All those things are just very important, and you have to be committed to those things. You can't have one big argument. We're gonna break up. Sometimes it just takes a little bit more than that. You gotta see it through.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be on the same page. One person can't be dating just for fun or in a relationship just for fun, and just it's temporary to them and just hanging out, Netflix and chill. They both have to be on the same page.
Yes.
And they need to communicate in order for each other to know, hey, I'm on this page and you're on the same page with me. And
so, Brandy, tell me, when does that relationship starts? You said everybody have to be on the same page. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So when does that relationship, that
Conversation.
I'm assuming once you establish that you have if you say, hey, we're going to be exclusive. That's you're starting a new relationship right there.
Well, okay, it brings
because
it
can be a friendly relationship. Then you say exclusive. That's the beginning of a new relationship.
It brings me back to when we were dating. And you asked me a question. We were going somewhere, maybe a wedding. I don't remember where. But you asked me, when we go to this wedding and I introduce you to people, what should I tell them?
I remember that.
That you are to me. And that was your fishing. That was your way of finding out where I was.
Where you were, and once that communication has been communicated with each other, that relationship take a turn.
Yeah,
it can take a turn for the worse, or it can take for the better.
Right, because if I had said, well, just tell them I'm your friend, and then you would know where I stood.
Exactly.
And you would know that I just wanted to be friends.
Exactly.
Or we, at that time, were just friends.
Yes.
But you wanted more. You wanted me to say, I'm your girlfriend.
I wanted more, but I didn't know where you stood mentally.
That's why you asked me the question.
That's why you have to communicate. So I said, hey, when we go to this wedding, how do you want me to introduce you?
Yeah.
And you said,
I'm your girlfriend.
Your girlfriend. So bam.
And I don't remember how long into our dating.
I don't even.
I don't remember how long it was before that conversation. But people do need to have that conversation so they know who you are to me.
So when do you think that conversation? What
It's hard
date?
to say. It's hard to say. I'm not sure like what month, it's hard to say. It just depends.
No, I don't think it's a month. I think it's a time. I think it's like, let's say we're on our 4th, 5th date.
Okay.
I think if you're on your 4th or 5th date, I think you probably need to start having that conversation.
Yeah.
I think
if one person is feeling like they want more, or they feel like that other person is their boyfriend or their girlfriend, they need to find out. They need to know that's information that they need to have, especially if that's what they want. Exactly,
because expectations can be if you don't communicate, expectations are going to be different for both of them.
Right.
My expectation is going to be a lot different from what your expectation is going to be if you're not communicating. So communication is very, very important, and clear communication and honest communication. You have to be clear.
Yes.
Be honest. And that's very
agree.
important. So I would say, to answer your question, I think the commitment part is just, I think a lot of people are not committed. They just want something big and happen in a relationship. They want out because, and you're going to have, listen, you're going to have issues with anybody you meet.
Amen.
Anybody you meet, you're going to have issues with them.
Yeah.
You're going to have problems.
No relationship is perfect.
When I say problem, I'm not saying major problem or issue, but you're going to have problems with anybody that you date. Yes. Anybody. I don't care if it's the baddest supermodel or Denzel Washington. I don't care who it is. You're going to have issues. So that's a part of a relationship. You have to talk and work through those relationships. And some people are not willing to do that. That's unfortunately.
Right. And that's why relationships don't work out a lot of times. It takes two. Both people have to be in agreement. You can't have one person that has one foot out. It's not going to work. So.
And I think experiencing things together as a couple, that's huge too. Doing things that you've never done before, just both of, like you and I, doing something that we've never done, or just any couple, just doing something that you've never done before, and just pushing the boundaries of maybe you're scared of something, you're scared of heights, you're scared of kayaking or skiing or skydiving. You do that together, man, that bonds your relationship.
Everything you named, I'm afraid of.
But I know. But if you're imagining you doing that with your significant other, your boyfriend, I mean, that really overcoming something together is huge.
Okay, so we've got our work cut out for us too then. All right. Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Brandy. I
want to give out our email address and our phone number because we want to hear from our listeners. Email address is Brandy, BRANDY, and David podcast @gmail.com. And is spelled out. Brandy and David podcast @gmail.com. Or call us and leave us a voice message at 615-930-1251. 615-930-1251. Thanks, Dave. It's been a great episode.
Thank you, Brandy.
And I'll talk to you later.
Peace.
Bye-bye.